But isn't there a bigger conversation to be had with violence and young people? In the East Valley, they had a symposium, they had a round table, whatever you want to call it, with the county attorney, with Rachel Mitchell, trying to address the crimes that are being committed by violent crimes, many times with weapons now. There's an epidemic with young people, and you're again, I'm not a psychologist. I have opinions like everybody else does. The fallout here, part of this is the lack of socialization we've seen that was exacerbated by COVID and the isolation of COVID. A lot of these kids that are 14, 15 years old now were 8, 9, 10 during COVID, isolated in the home. The fact that devices isolate kids. I was just texting with a friend this morning who is involved in the education system, and he's a brilliant guy. I've known him for a long time. He was a very well-known wrestler and wrestling coach here in the Valley for a long time. And the idea that we're not investing in young people, I've said for a long time, and this is a weird segue, but let me walk through this for a minute. I have said for a very long time that we should get our children involved in group activities. Now, I would say a sport is some kind of competition is always good, that it gets them, that there's competition is good. Winning and losing are good. When you lose, a prime example, my brother's sophomore year in high school, I was coaching my brother's teams. My brother was a sophomore in high school. We were playing against a district rival in a game, and whoever won that game went on to the playoffs. It was on our field, and with 14 seconds left in the game, this other team ran a punt back, and they beat us. 14 seconds. That team went on to win the state championship, and it wasn't even close. When that game was over, there wasn't a dry eye on the field. Coaches, players, and parents. My heart was broken. The next year, when we went to their school to play them, we beat them 40-6. It turned from sadness, and they used it for motivation. But the thing is, they had coaches that taught them how to channel that sadness and anger, and an expectation that this needs to make you better. And is this going to define you, or are you going to define it? And there were leaders that saw this as an opportunity, not to mention the fact that I don't know that I ever think about that game unless I'm telling that story, or we never talk about it. At the time, it was the only thing we could think of. It was horrible, but it was a high school football game. In the grand scheme of life, we've had more tragic things happen to us. We've had more tragic losses. We've had to deal with really important things. Sports teach you to win with dignity, or to win with humility, I guess, and to lose with dignity. Respect your opponent. There's a lot of life lessons in a team activity. You learn to work on something with people that you don't necessarily get along with.
You learn to try again.
Yeah. And it teaches your children, if you get them involved in a sport, that there are going to be people on their team that they wouldn't necessarily hang out with outside of practice or a game. But because you have a common goal, you learn to work with people. It makes us a better employee. We don't necessarily get along with, or I shouldn't say that. We wouldn't hang out with the people we work with outside of work sometimes.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. It just.
I have a good example of this.
Oh, good. I can't wait to hear. Name names.
Well, no, not here.
Oh, okay. Dang it.
Within sports. With sports, Katie was on a soccer team when she was a lot younger, probably like when she was 4 or 5. And one of the kids was just off out doing his own thing, didn't pay attention to things. He was there, sitting there picking grass and like just in his own little world, which is fine. You're there to have fun. You're a part of a team, whatever. And he had gotten hurt or something, and she went over and helped him get up. And which is she probably wouldn't hang out with this kid, normally.
Right.
But she ended up, helping him up, the camaraderie of it, and, making sure he was okay. And she ended up getting like a good sportsmanship award after that game.
Right.
And she felt so proud of herself that she, helped this person she didn't know. And I don't know, just all those feelings that kids need.
And learning it in an environment where it isn't life or death. It's sports. If you treat it right when you're a parent or when you're a coach, if you look at the sports as a vehicle to teach life lessons and you don't treat it as life and death, let the kids treat it as life and death sometimes, but you have to see the reality of what it is. What you teach those kids, what you learn between the lines on an athletic field are life lessons that carry you forever. Am I right, Pablo?
I was about to say forever. I've been in this building for like 20 years, and the managers, I can tell which ones play team sports.
Yeah.
You can tell it's just a different approach with their team.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they lead. They don't fall. They don't pull you.
Yeah, they lead by example.
There you go. Yeah,
and that's this is such a, I'm not. Trust me, I was leaping off of this shooting that happened. I'm not saying if this kid had been in a team sport that he would have been okay. I'm saying that in general, we're watching the violence at Maryvale High School. We're watching violence in the East Valley, and we're having all of these meetings about violence. And if you look at those situations and you think, there's got to be a way to socialize these people where they have empathy, where they have concern for other people other than themselves.
In those social situations.
Right, where other people's feelings matter, when you understand.
When they matter.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a great, perfect example to help children develop those skills at a young age. She may have not wanted to go run back and forth on the field, but she got some really cool experiences from it. And
the other part of it is when you are able to say to her, if she doesn't want to go to practice or she doesn't want to play, you're a part of a team. Your team is counting on you.
Right.
And that's also part of what we do. There's plenty of times when you get up and you say, I don't really feel that well, or I don't want to go to work today. But we realize we're letting other people down when we're not
part of a team.
Right.
Yeah.
And you understand you have a responsibility to other people, not just to yourself.
And I know you're saying that, like you said, if this person would have gone to a sports or anything like that, but it is definitely a tool to mold and help mental health.
Yes, there's no doubt. And it gives you a level of maturity, and the disappointment that happens when you lose. Sometimes losing in the long run is very helpful to people. And think about that in your work life when you don't get the job you really wanted or something happens, how you handle that and the life lessons you learned when you didn't make a team when you were younger.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you win some, you lose some.
I had more losses than wins in my amateur sports career. And I learned from them.
You learn from them. And if it makes you better, if it makes you try harder, then that's the best you can hope for.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch and listen to the new season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.